Hey, Lynette, how are you?
Hey, how are you, John?
Good. Let me see. Hang on. Can you say something, Lynette? I wasn't able to hear you.
Hello, John.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Now I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So let me go ahead and do this now. I'm going to make you the host. Well, I've already shared. Hang on. I'm going to wait for Consuelo to jump on. And then when I jump off, I'll make you the host. Okay.
Sure.
And then, like I said, if you need me for anything, just let me know.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much.
Okay. Looks like Consuelo's jumping in. Hey, Consuelo, how are you?
Yeah, I apologize. All right, I am, let me just see, having some problems getting off video. Let me start. All right. There we go. Okay.
All right. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and jump off.
Okay,
Once I jump off, Lynette, you will be the host. Like I said, you guys have my phone number. If you need me for anything, I'm here at home, okay?
okay, no problem.
Thank you, guys. All right, bye-bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Hi, Mrs. Brown. How are you?
Call me Consuelo. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Good, good, good. I don't know. We have somebody on. Let's give some folks a few minutes. I don't know who's going to join. I'm hoping the
Sure.
vice chair does. But let me just
Okay, no
sit
problem.
down for a minute,
Okay,
and then we'll be ready to go.
okay.
All right, thanks. Let me see. All right, so let's see if we get, it's no point in having a meeting without, without more board members. There are not many of us, but, yeah, it would be
Okay.
good to have the co-chair on it.
Well, you know what? We can give them a few more minutes and, if nobody responds, we can still proceed and
We'll meet,
get
yeah.
through it and answer whatever questions, you have, and whatever else we need further clarification on, I can just make a note and get back to you. So it's not a problem.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
Give him a few more minutes. And I'm not sure who's on the iPad, but if you would just, if you can just hold for a minute, we're just trying to get a few more people on the call. Okay, so it's 5:07. I want, she said she was joining. I want to give, I hate to waste people's time. All right, hold on a second. It's Miss Kyle.
Sure, that's not a problem.
You, we should have 2 board members joining us.
Sure.
Plus, this is your first one, your first meeting with this board. I want to make sure it's a good one.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We will get through this together. And like I said, whatever outstanding questions, I will find the answers and get back to you. So it's not a problem.
All right. So does this mean you didn't get to take this week off, that you had to be in the?
That is correct. I am
Oh,
in
boy.
the office, at least through Wednesday. We'll see how Thursday and Friday go, but it's all for a good cause. You just do what you have to do, right? Right? You do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do.
That is correct.
Hopefully you had a beautiful weekend.
Absolutely. I was able to get out in the yard and rake up some remaining leaves. I think I had about 8 bags and it looks like I didn't do anything.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Even
Yes.
through the, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That
I
you
had 8 bags.
Wow. So usually they decompose a little bit. You get a little bit of
Mm-mm.
mulching. No.
Mm-mm. I had 8 bags.
Okay, well,
So
Oh my
I was
God.
out there working this weekend, but it was, I enjoy that. So I'm okay.
Okay. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful weekend.
Absolutely.
Uh, to,
Absolutely.
to feel sun on the body. Oh my God.
Mhm, mhm.
What a joy. What a joy. Well, good. Well, I'm sorry about the 8 bags, but glad you got out, moved, and got some sun,
Absolutely.
met your yard again or your
Yeah.
yard.
And yeah, and then I got sad because it's like, man, this is a lot of work, but it's okay. This is a lot of work.
So the other option is always to mow it as a way to mulch it.
Yeah, yeah. I just went ahead and wrecked.
I hear you.
Mm.
All right, so we have Ms. Carr, who's the co-chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think
Thank
we'll
you.
start.
Hi, Miss Carr. How are you?
Fine. How are you? This is over finance, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I am.
I'm
Mhm.
going to actually ask her to introduce herself, but Ms. Carr. So
Oh,
don't,
did you?
yeah, I'm going to ask her to do that before we get into this meeting. So,
Okay.
so hold the question.
Okay, I sure do. I have a comment to make.
Okay.
Okay.
I will surely hold it.
Okay, so I think we
Yeah.
should, we were waiting for one board member. I don't know if the person on the iPad is a board member. Are you board?
Sherry.
We have Sherry.
Good
Still right.
day.
Hey, how are you?
All right. So
Okay.
we are, let's call the meeting to order at 5:12 p.m.
Mhm.
This is the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. So before we get started, I want to do a couple of things.
Mhm.
One of which is to a thank you to Ms. Carr for her service. She was the co-chair, is the co-chair of this committee.
Okay.
I suspect this is her last meeting as co-chair.
Okay.
So I want to I want to just acknowledge her role as the co-chair of the committee. Thank you so much for your service, Ms. Carr. Appreciate you and your guidance.
Thank you, Consuela.
And don't know that I could have done this without your leadership. So I appreciate it, even though I was bucking it in the beginning. Of, I
You're
got
so
this.
kind. You're too kind.
What I didn't know, but I now know. So thank you.
Mhm.
Then I want to just take a minute to introduce the new CSBO, Ms. Lynette Hutcherson. Ms. Hutcherson, welcome. Look forward
Thank you.
to working with you. If you want to just give us a little bit of just an overview of your short story, an elevator spiel of who you are, how you came here, and all that stuff, so people know you.
Okay, great. Well, I started off in a neighboring district. And when I started there, I wasn't necessarily looking to become a CSBO, but I started off in accounts payable. I did payroll for a minute. And just kind of after I got the swing of things and just some of the added responsibility, some of my peers suggested that I go back and just get the necessary credentials to become a CSBO. So I did that. It's been a very rewarding experience. So I've kind of worked in all the capacities as it relates to being in a business office, doing payroll, doing accounts payable. And my district was a lot smaller than this district. We had right around anywhere from 200 to 230 students, opposed to what we have here in District 132. So with that being said, you wore a lot of hats, and I've worn a lot of hats, but I think it's prepared me to be where I am now. I will say in working in District 132, it's been a great experience. You guys have got some really knowledgeable staff, some very dedicated staff members under some great leadership. So I'm really happy to be a part of the team. You guys have got some really, really great people working in your district.
Thank you, Ms. Hutcherson. And I just want to, on record, before Ms. Carr, I forgot I was supposed to do a roll call.
Oh,
So
okay.
on the board, we have Sherry Story, who's the board chair,
Hmm.
Patricia Carr, and Patricia Ann Carr, who's both the vice chair and of the board and this committee. We have another person on this call. If you are you able to unmute yourself? There's someone on an iPad. If you want to be, if you're able to identify yourself, great. It's not required. Okay, so and then I'm Consuela Brown, board member, board secretary, and chair of the finance committee, perhaps for the rest of this month, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Ms. Carr, yes, now go for it.
Yes, Miss Hutcherson,
Yes, ma'am.
what was your start date, as the CSBO?
January 23rd.
But you were working in the office prior to that?
No, I was in another district.
In another
District
district,
130.
okay.
Yeah, District 133. And I took a little bit of time off prior to me starting in District 132. I took care of elderly parents, so I had a little bit of a lag in between 133 and 132.
Okay, because when you call your office,
Mhm.
where you CSBO,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
answering service is still using Miss Redmond's name.
Yeah,
but
and
she
you
was
know,
out.
yeah, and you know what? We corrected that. That has since been corrected, so that's
Yes,
not a
since the
problem.
other day,
Yes.
after I
Mhm.
spoke with Dr. Alexander,
Mhm.
because I felt that was something very important, because any customer or vendor or anyone calling for any services, they should know exactly who they need to speak with. And when it said Miss Redmond, I was just shocked.
Mhm.
But thank you for correcting that. So now when you call and you're not in the office, it will list your name.
That is correct.
Okay, because Dr. Alexander is the one that called me back.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the person on the iPad, they're not gonna identify themselves? Just listen, huh, and see what's going on. Well, that's their privilege. If that's what they want to do, snoop. I call it snooping. I mean, I'm serious, talking to my brother. You're not identifying yourself. What's the big secret? Okay, moving on with my
Okay.
comments.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Carr.
And I resent you saying that. I don't have to identify myself if I don't want to. That is my privilege to do so.
And exactly, and that's exactly what I said, that you have that prerogative to not identify yourself, that you could snoop. That's what I said. I agree. Moving on.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, caller, for, yes, please, you're all welcome. We're all excited that you are here. So this is being recorded, and I'm assuming will be posted and serve as the minutes for this meeting. And the prior minutes, I think I submitted, and so those should be on record somewhere.
Okay.
I'm hopeful. If not, let me know and I will resubmit. I think we did a virtual call there too. So I think that will stand as the minutes for the prior meeting. So if that's okay, I'd like to just get down with items for discussion. The first of which is the audit. Where are we there, Ms. Hutchinson?
You know what? At this point, as of today, unfortunately, we still have not received the information that our auditors need to complete our audit. We are still waiting for the Thornton Township to provide the information. And to be honest, they haven't given us a date. It was supposed to be at the end of March, but unfortunately, we have not received anything. It's unfortunate because it's not only our district, but it's all the districts that they serve. But we still have not received anything as of yet.
That is unfortunate. And do we
Yes.
have a sense, I know there's been transition and that I've sort of been giving them sort of some leeway, but it feels to me like it's more of the same. Just, I think the question is whether there's some needs to do a little bit of active engagement around this. We also should have Mark Sheehan come and perhaps, Madam Chair, if it's okay to have him at this next board meeting so we can have an update from the treasurer to figure out what's going on. Like, what?
We can try, but trust you and me, all of the districts that they serve are having the same issue. So, only they can speak to what, are all of the underlying issues. But I mean, for us, bottom line is we still don't have our information. I will make a note of that and we can, I can discuss with the superintendent. But yeah, I mean, we are still waiting.
So, Ms.
And
Hutchinson, a question.
yes,
Sorry,
yes,
I'm so sorry.
no problem.
Question, do we get a monthly report from the treasurer's office?
And that's actually the next point. We do get monthly updates. However, we are still waiting for the January and February figures from the treasurer's office. So we're waiting on that and we're hoping to have that so that that can be part of the April board meeting.
Because it's stating that we're supposed to receive that, the board.
Absolutely. And that's the expectation, that we should have something for January and February to report for the April board meeting.
And Ms. Hutcherson, when we see to have this kind of delay, how are we how are we talking to the treasurer's office about this?
Well, typically it's either phone call and via email so that we have a paper trail of what has been asked. And so far, the ask has been about January and February's report. And that has been the information disseminated to us that the expectation is that we should have something for the April board meeting.
And had they been specific about the actual date of said document, or they're just saying you should have something before?
Yeah, they're saying we should have something prior to the board meeting.
So this raises another question for me,
Sure.
which is that we are, so I'm assuming with this re-election of one of the Calumet Township trustees of, I forget what they're called, the schools, but we are at the tail end of our intergovernmental agreement. And so I know it is not necessarily ours to enter, but it is up for negotiation. And so I guess my question is whether, one, that I haven't been following them, but have you had any conversation with the commissioners around this, the retainment of a treasurer or a new intergovernmental agreement for those services?
I have not. However, that is something definitely that can be discussed, with administration. And, we can get back to you on perhaps what some of those options could be. So, I'm making a note of that. And that's something that, can be further discussed.
So there is some guidance from our attorney. I am happy to share, but I've already shared it with the superintendent, and it may be worth going back to have a conversation about that, because that's right
Sure.
now the only leverage that we have at this particular juncture is that there's a new agreement that needs to be entered into, I think, in May. And so a little bit of agitating. I might also reach out to the body and say, look, you all, promised us that this would be resolved. And as much as we appreciate Mark Sheehan, we still having the same problems that we were having prior to his arrival. So is it perhaps in everybody's best interest? I don't know about Bloom Township. I know there was talk about possibly thinking about Bloom Township as a potential relationship. I don't know if the folks in Bloom Township are having the same problems that we're having in Thornton.
Okay,
But I think we need to, if
have
we're
that
going to,
conversation.
we
Okay,
need to do it now
Mhm.
before they start signing papers. Then we stuck for another 2 years with some of the same.
understood, understood.
Any other comments or questions on that particular point? So just note that we are asking, assuming the board chair has no disagreement about that, that we are inviting the treasurer to come. They're supposed to provide us with quarterly updates. I think he arrived. He came, I think we saw him in January. And so it's probably time now to see him again at this April meeting, and to hear what is happening with the treasurer's office and why there continues to be the kind of delays that there are, and what his plan is for addressing those concerns.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, accounts payable. We don't have those yet, so usually we kind of go through them and ask any questions that people have. But are there any questions that anybody has about the accounts payable, either from last meeting or something that you would want to raise with Ms. Hutchinson, who's here?
Dr. Alexander just said that in his report that because of the grant money that we have to spend the grant money. Ms. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it'll probably be a slight higher than before because of those grant monies that were spent. So let me ask you a question, Ms. Hutchinson. Since we are spending the grant money, where are we with that? I mean, as far as making sure that it's just not frivolous spending. It's something that the students can benefit from.
Well, what we've worked hard with doing is for all of the grants, and just to your point that it isn't frivolous spending. So we're trying to, for the grants, come up with specific programs so that it's just not, let's say, buying construction paper, buying pens, though those things are needed, but we're trying to attach those grant monies to specific programs. Like we're doing the greenhouse, and with the greenhouse, there'll be certain, let's say, a curriculum attached to that. And then for some of the new curriculums that we're adopting, obviously whatever comes with that, I mean, it's a grant expenditure, but it's a whole program. So no, we're not doing frivolous spending. And, just the administration in general has made it a point of when we talk about grant spending, that it's for specific things that are following the strategic plan of the district. So we're doubly making sure that we adhere to that. And
so go ahead, Ms. Hutchinson. I actually, the next two items, I had asked for a list of those two things. Are you prepared to show those two
yes,
things?
and I was going to say that's leading into that, so that you guys can kind of see for yourselves what the plan is.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you can you can see the list here, and
so for some reason, let me see. Okay, there you go.
okay.
Is everybody
So-
able to see?
Can everybody? Can everybody
Could you
see?
make it a little bigger? Just
I can see it, but I can't read.
Okay, let me see how big I can make it. Okay, so we
There
might
we
kind of
go.
have to scroll back and forth.
That's fine.
Okay,
It's better. Yes, it's
Okay.
better.
so as you can see, we literally have a whole laundry list of grants that we are utilizing. And we split them up pretty much into two categories, which are the entitlement grants, which us just being a school district, we get. We just have to make sure that the proper applications are submitted. And then we've got competitive grants, which we competed for and we got. But first and foremost, I'm just going to kind of walk you through a few of these grants so you can kind of see where we're at. For example, the Title I grant, we get a little bit over, or we've gotten a little bit over 600,000 for that. And to date, you can see that we've expended about 387,000, but we've got about 38% of the grant left. And though that might seem like quite a bit, we've still got to account for spending from April through June. And because we run summer school, any other expenditures that we get past June 30th, we can still count that towards this grant. So we've got Title I, we've got Title II, which is for professional development. We've got Title III, and it looks like with Title III as an example, we've got 35% more of that grant to spend.
Mhm.
You can see that we've got Title IV money. We've got IDEA preschool money, IDEA flow-through money, and some of these grants we've totally exhausted. Wherever you see 0%, that means we've spent it for the entire year.
And when we're seeing these higher percentages of the ESSER, the Title I monies, that's an undersubscription at 96%. So we've only spent down 4% of that.
We've only spent down 4%, and the original grant was 30,000. So though 96% seems like a big number, for us, for 30,000, that's something that we can get spent. And then the other thing that I want you to realize, for a lot of these grants, even though our fiscal year ends June 30th, a lot of this can be carried over. So I don't want you to feel like, oh my goodness, if we don't spend it, we lose it. A lot of these grants, we can carry over until the next year. And again, just remember that this is just our spending through March of this year. We still got April, May, and June, and we still got summer school. So for a lot of these, we've still got time.
So for the ESSER two money, that's money that was allocated for the building. I mean, for the building, right? The capital.
That money. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's where that money is going, Consuelo, because remember when Alexander did the chart and was saying where the money was being allocated from, and we was definitely taking it from the ESSER money. So that's part of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So as we start, the physical exercise of building the gym, then a lot of this money will start to be spent a lot more expeditiously. It'll definitely get spent. For the most part right now, we're still in the planning stages of the gym, but once a lot of the little details are ironed out, then we'll be able to really pick up steam and get going with the project.
Can you scroll over just a little bit to your
Sure.
right? I just wanted to see the explanation. So look like the ESSER 2 grant ends 2025. Okay, so we still have that time because we have the 2024. Okay, for the gym. And then we voted on the upgrades, the lab upgrades. Okay.
Right, and you can see for the upgrades here, you got the cafeteria upgrades, the boiler replacement, science labs, and again, the gym. So though it seems like we've got quite a bit to spend, when things really pick up steam, it's it's going to be spent quickly.
Yes.
So, Ms. Hutchinson, the color coding, is there something symbolic about the blues versus the whites, or is that just a kind of eye
It's-
divider?
It provides contrast, so it makes it easier for you to read what coincides with what. That's all.
And do we have, so thank you, this is helpful. Hopefully the board will get to see this as well.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it possible we could have a copy of this?
Yes, ma'am. We can get that. We can get
I
this
do
to-
better when I read it over and over again myself. I get a better understanding when I can hold it and read it for myself. So
Understand.
what would I have to ask for in order to get this slide that you have up? You got copy of grant report?
Yeah, I'm going to, we can just email it to you, or we can,
Okay.
yeah, and I will confirm with Dr. Alexander, if he wants it to be included in the packet or email it, because it's a little bit bigger of a sheet of paper. It's not a standard sheet of paper. So if you don't have legal, you won't be able to get a good copy of it.
So this is
Thank you so
SY
much.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Carr, sorry. I
That's
didn't mean-
okay.
Mm.
Go ahead,
So-
Consuela.
Clarification, so we've got a combination of SY 2022-23 and 2023-24. Is there a separate document for 2023-24, or is it enmeshed in this one?
These are the 22-23 grants, and if he's referencing other years, it's just because it's a rollover. He's referencing that it'll roll over into the following fiscal year.
So what I'm trying to get a better sense of is
Sure.
Two things. One of which, thank you, this is helpful, really helpful.
Okay.
And it seems like the board has found this helpful as well, the board
Sure.
members. But I'm trying to get a better sense of projection out. So
Okay.
in part because it feels like at least the 2 years prior, and that may be in relationship to pandemic and monies flowing,
Mhm.
that we had more grants coming in. We don't seem to have. So when we spend down, I'm trying to figure out where we are financially 2023, 24 and beyond. And so I don't see us, I don't remember us taking in any new money this year, but it's possible. Do you know if we've had any new grants awarded in 2023?
Well, I can't really say if there was any new grants other
Mhm.
than we've got your entitlement grants. And then again, we've got the competitive grants. However, I will say this, coming up typically in late May,
Mm-hmm.
they will start releasing new grants. So if there are other grants outside of, let's say, the entitlement grants or the current competitive grants that we have, then as a district, we can make a decision in terms of if those new grants will fit within the bigger strategic plan that the district has. And if so, then those are things that we would then have the option to apply for.
So we think that perhaps May, but it would be, if you can find out. I don't think, it seemed to me that there might have been mention of one funding opportunity.
Okay.
I know we applied for something and did not get it.
Okay.
I would be curious as to whether any new grants have been approved, competitive grants, not entitlements. I think that's just, I mean, that is what it is. But I'm looking specifically for any new competitive grants that have been awarded and applied for.
Gotcha. And
Who's the
again,
grant writer?
What happened with, what's that? What happened with when we had, what's the guy name to do the grants? To try to,
Dr. Rice, Dr.
Rice,
Rice.
Jerry Rice.
Dr. Rice.
So, Ms. Hutchinson, do you know if any of those grants that Jerry Rice have written that did we receive?
you
Because
know
I don't
what? I want to say, and again, I want to make sure that I have the right information, but the Freedom School grant, I believe, is the one that is Dr. Rice. However, I will check on that to see. That's number one. And then number two, I will also check to see if there are any other grants that perhaps he may be tied to that we can apply for. And again, with the end of fiscal year approaching, meaning June 30th, a lot of the new grants will start to pop up. So again, if there are things that we think will be a good fit for our district, you guys will be made aware of, and then that will then be something that we apply for.
Thank you. And you know, I have heard Dr. Alexander talk about his concerns about our oversubscription of applying for just anything without being able. So this is a problem, is when you apply for anything and there's no alignment, you end up with more money and a panic trying to spend it and or to have to return it, which I think we had to do as well.
Right. And that's why I'm careful. That's why I'm emphasizing making sure that it fits within the strategic plan of our district, just so that we don't have a lot of grants of which we can't spend because the application for it just doesn't fit with what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions from board members? Our visitor? Okay.
No,
so
but
yeah,
so Jerry Wright is the one that's responsible for submitting the grants or writing the grants? Or
No,
are you?
no, grants now are a collaboration of the administrative staff. And, you know, Dr. Alexander and myself will be working on that this year in terms of the writing of all the grants, along with all of the other teams within the district, just to make sure that the grants will be properly allocated for the things that we actually are trying to get done within the district.
So, because the reason I'm asking is because
Sure.
the last administrator, we had one individual that was responsible for writing the grants. But now from my understanding of from you today, is that you, Dr. Alexander, and other staff members will have the privilege of writing grants, various grants for various reasons.
Right. And it's only because we want to make sure that strategically it fits with what we're doing in the district and that the expenditures directly apply to what they're doing in the classroom and just the overall goals of the district. So, you know, we're definitely making a concerted effort just to make sure that things fit, and we're not scrambling at the end of the year because things weren't aligned appropriately and for the right expenditures that we will be doing during the year. So we're being extra careful about that moving forward.
Other questions?
No, thank you
Okay.
so much, Ms. Hutchinson.
No problem.
All right. So anything else, Ms. Hutchinson, that you wanted to lift up?
No, I can stop sharing. And I will make sure that you guys get some version of that so that you guys can study it. And if you have further questions, you can ask.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that would cover, I'm guessing, items E, D, and E, which were the SY 2022-23 grants and the school year 23-24 grants. Okay, so I have I had this wrong. I had an IC4, but it's an ISC4 salary survey. But the question here is about just how the board is thinking it, because we're now going to be in this. I mean, obviously the superintendent will be presenting his budget but there is going to have to be a conversation around salaries. And trying to think about, so he did provide me that information. I think the board chair has the information as well. Maybe we could just talk more broadly about sort of the framework for how we are thinking about budgeting salaries, as well as making sure that we're both competitive but fair. And so maybe just the ISC, the ISC 4 he explained was an older survey, and that that was taking place, I think August 2022, and there's likely to be another one. Maybe you could share what you do know about that particular survey.
The last survey was published in 2022. And if they do an update to that, it'll probably be sometime over the summer, so that you guys will then have a better idea about what competitive salaries look like. So that information is forthcoming.
But we're going to be called pretty soon to make some decisions. And that's the challenge. So let me just be clear, this is an open meeting. We are not going to be discussing any particular staff salary. It's inappropriate to do so here. But what does feel appropriate is to have a conversation about how we are thinking about these decisions, so that they're equitable, so that we are making the best. I mean, we certainly are relying on staff to share that information with us, but it also feels like we need to, as a board, to be prepared to think about how we come to these numbers. And so perhaps, I don't know if you've had some conversations internally about how you all are thinking about salary ranges, and making some decisions about what's competitive and what's not competitive.
Well, in addition to the information that we'll have from 2022, we can go out, I guess, to, other districts' websites in and around for districts that are similar to ours, and kind of gather information. So, and quite frankly, 2022 is not so far-fetched. So that'll still give us a framework. So I don't want you to feel like you won't be competitive by looking at 2022, because that still gives you a range. And even if you went off of a salary close to 2022, I'm sure you'll be reasonably competitive with salary, because it's not like salaries are increasing 10% or 15%. It's still going to be in that range.
And I have a question.
Yes.
It's a policy that all staff members, I think over 25,000 or maybe more, I'm not sure, I got to look at the policy, their salary is supposed to be posted on our website.
Yes, ma'am.
And I looked at that, and some staff members, because you said we can't talk about any staff member, their information is not up there. And they supposed to have how many sick days, vacation days, any special, what is that when you investments, all of that is supposed to be up there. And one staff member in particular I was looking for on that website isn't listed there, and they should be there.
Okay.
On how many, so who's responsible for that?
That comes out of the business office. And I will say this, depending on who that staff member is, those salaries are from the prior year. So depending on when they were hired versus when that was posted, may be one of the reasons why you don't see it. So it's no problem. We'll take a look, but just remember, it's not.
I'll email you on the staff member that I'm talking about. I'm writing down all the stuff I'm gonna ask you for. So that's another one of the items, because I need to know how many sick days they have up there, how many vacation days they have up there, what is their bonuses. All of that is supposed to be listed on the website, and this particular individual is not there, and they should be there.
Okay.
So,
Thank
but
you, Ms.
also,
Hutchinson.
and Ms. Story, I know you want to ask a question. I just want to though reiterate, I think what I'm hearing Ms. Hutchinson say is that we're about a year behind. Is that right?
Yes, yes. By
Okay.
statute, you post from the prior year. So if
Okay.
that person was newly hired this year, it won't be there. It will
When
be
you-
posted, it will be posted next year. And I believe the date on that is by a time in October. So I know the district is compliant. It's just a matter of when that person was hired. So it's
So
not
you
a
saying if they was hired in 2023 or you saying 2022?
if they were hired in the 22-23 school year, their information won't be on that report.
Okay,
That's from the prior year's report or set of salary information.
okay, that this person should be up there then, according to what you're saying.
Okay.
So I'll email you in regards to who I'm talking about. Thank
Okay.
you, though.
No
Thank
problem.
you so much.
Mhm.
Ms.
So my
Story?
question, I was just going back to the competitive salaries. Basically, it's supposed to be with the comparables and looking at the, like you said, the districts that's kind of similar to our district with the 3
Mhm.
schools. And looking at those, so those are the, like you said, the surrounding districts
Mm.
and the demographics that kind of mirror,
Mm.
even though, like say for instance, even though it may be 5 schools, but it kind of mirror our school. So that was the biggest thing that I had, because looking at the salaries and you looking at the comparables around you, and that's what we have to really hone into, those things, and not just throw out a salary just because.
Yeah,
Because
and
I-
then
Go ahead.
the other thing too is for any given, I guess, set of people, not only is it, I guess, competitive, but it also is individually, what their level of experience is. So sometimes it may not be apples to apples, oranges to
Right.
oranges. You don't know. So
Exactly.
you don't know. It's just, again, it's just a general range based on general data, but every individual may be different based on just based
Levels of
on
experience and things of that.
Mhm.
A-
Okay.
a- And do
And
we,
is it one
Okay.
second, Consuelo, is
Go
it based upon too, because we have the per pupil. So if you have 800 students, then if it's per pupil, then the salary's gotta, adjust. Because if it's per pupil, and that's what we're getting all the Title I funds and things of that nature, because if you have 800, that's all they're gonna give us, Title I funds for the total of enrollment.
Yeah, and again, without me, I guess getting too specific,
Yeah.
I guess general salary range, and then the experience of that person. That's probably the best thing I can say, keeping it generic, because each person and your reasons for hiring them may be different.
and to put you on the spot a little bit, Ms. Hutcherson, drawing on your own previous experience, have you found there's been some best practices about how to inform the board as to what would be acceptable, like either documentation and or framework for evaluating salaries as they're presented?
I think overall you want to make sure that you're in the salary range, but I think you also need to look at each person on an individual basis, and just look at again what they're bringing to the table, and that might be somewhat subjective, but I think you want to judge each candidate on their own merit, because a person that may have 1 year's worth of experience is certainly going to be paid a little bit differently than someone, let's say, with 8 years worth of experience or 9 years worth of experience. So definitely, like I said, take each candidate on an individual basis. And I don't know, maybe we develop some type of rubric or something where you guys can kind of go through a checklist of things that you want to evaluate a candidate on.
That's Ms. Carr. Before Ms. Carr, did you want to say anything, or you?
No, to me, what Ms. Hutcherson is saying about the salary ranges when hiring someone, looking at the demographics around the district and comparison with other schools. This is something that the last administrator in that off field did too. They always brought to the table what's around us and what they're getting paid. And then what that particular individual is bringing to the table too.
Mhm.
All of those things play a effect. I like that. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to. I'm just hoping that I think we've been a little bit too subjective, quite honestly, and I think it's gotten us in trouble. So, my question is just like, I know we can't always compare apples to apples, oranges to oranges, but to the extent that there is some clarity about why we're making decisions, i.e., if we're looking at comparables as they relate to district size, pupil numbers, years of experience, that feels comfortable. I feel more comfortable being able to make an informed decision as opposed to just a document that says here's the range, and you're like, well, range for what? Like, how did this come to be?
Maybe there can be, I don't know, a checklist that you guys kind of go through so that you'll feel like you're approaching it in a systematic way. So in addition to the range, maybe you have 5 or 6 questions that you guys can all come together and say, for question 1, how do they rate? Question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5. And that's maybe a more systematic approach where you feel like, in addition to the range, you're following, I guess, some type of systematic way of evaluating if someone, at least on paper, is going to work.
Specific to this board and this district.
Correct.
That's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for that. That was the hottest seat. That was about as hot as that seat's going to get today, Ms. Hutcherson. You navigated beautifully.
I'm good.
Look, that's what I give her.
Thumbs up. Nice dance.
Yeah.
All right. So we just have 2 more items, and then we'll open it up for public comment. So and you gotta clap, and a big clap for me as well. Bravo, beautifully done. The IT contract, is that up for? I can't remember. Is it up for?
What we're gonna do? We're gonna. I'm gonna tell you. We're gonna extend it for 1 more year, and then it's gonna give the district time to just gather a whole host of information that's needed. Because to be honest with you, if we even wanted to go out to bid, we don't have enough information, because IT, when you talk about IT, they touch us. It's a lot of information. So we've got to do our own due diligence in gathering all of the information. And then at that point, we will go out for some type of RFP for managed technology. We're going to do that sometime next year. But no, that is at the forefront of our to-do list, and we are working diligently to try to figure out what that's going to look like, so that we can get that ready for an RFP. Probably sometime November, December-ish of 2023.
That's helpful to know. Yeah, it had been I know it had been an issue, and so tandem to that would be having an IT plan. I think the vendor did that for us last year. I don't know that was the best. I don't know if that was always the best space for us. Hello, Dr. Alexander. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about the IT contract. You're on mute. So, okay. So that is helpful to know. So an IT plan, as well as cybersecurity, we had some element of that. But
And
I
all
think-
of that's going to be tied into that as well.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
And so then the last piece are, any other questions on the IT contract? All right, so the last thing on this agenda is this bid requirement policies. I just wanted to review it, in part to get a clarity on the distinctions. So anything that's over $25,000, let me just hear how you think about this before I muddy the water.
Before
Yep,
you
Mr.
jump in,
Dr.
let me say good evening. This
Evening.
meeting was on my calendar for 6 o'clock. That's why I'm just not joining.
Oh,
So I
Sorry.
apologize, but I'm here. Lynette, I'm sure she took care of it.
she did. She danced the hot. I mean, she got through a pretty scathing moment there a few minutes ago beautifully. Not on fire or nothing.
Very good,
Sorry,
very
Alexander.
good.
Alexander, welcome, welcome. We've gotten through, yeah, so she's handled it beautifully. There's some questions that will come back to you. But we literally in the bid requirement policy. So I don't know if which of you would like to jump in to have this.
Well, just anything over 25,000, we've got to, go out to bid and follow the proper protocol for that, unless it's a special exempt type of service or product. And our district follows all of those rules.
What's a exempt or special situation?
For example, the greenhouse that we're going to be getting this year, that's kind of a specialty product. That's not something that a lot of vendors do. So that falls under that category.
So are
And
you
that was
saying,
textbooks as well?
Say again, Dr. Alexander?
Textbooks. So textbooks and instructional materials, those fall under exempt categories as well.
oh, okay, I know, I'm familiar with that. It's just the greenhouse. Thank you.
No problem.
And so where are we with, so we have because this come up, I can't quite explain it. So we have we've contracted DLA to review proposals. How is this building thing working? I just want to make sure I understand it.
Sure. So DLA is our district architect. They work on our behalf, right? So everything that has to come through our district, DLA has to approve and certify as our district architect. So they're not the ones to do the work. They're the ones who manage the project. They administer, make sure funding is right before the district cuts the check. And then they basically work for us as a district, as our owner's representative. They facilitate the bid process to make sure that everybody meets the qualifications. Once a bid has been selected, they monitor the project as it's going on, the actual construction. And then the thing that I like the most is that when the contractors actually send the bills to DLA, and DLA verifies that everything that they say they're charging us for, that's exactly what we pay. So the district doesn't pay on the contractor. The district pays when DLA says, yes, doc, this happened.
So are they both administering are they both can they actually be builders too?
No, they cannot.
They cannot. And so where are we on subcontract or bids for the actual?
So yes, the bids for the construction, the playground go out. Let me rephrase, the bid for the paving, the playground we buy directly, because that's literally you're just buying a product. But the actual bidding for the repaving, I believe that comes in late April.
And for the gym, where's the bid? Where are the bids for the construction of the gym?
Lynette, I think you said June, early June.
Yes.
Early June, and then they'll start construction sometimes late August and September.
And then, under the contractual agreement with DLA, is there an option for a request for an administrator that is not them for this project?
So under our we had this conversation before. So DLA is the district's architect, which is something we have to have by the state. And throughout the construction process, they facilitate all of the process. So DLA is their architects. They don't build anything. They just make sure what's being built is to code, to spec, and we're following the law. So if we wanted to go out for an additional representative to represent us, that could be an extra couple $100,000, but that's what your district architect does. So by law, you have to have a state architect and you have to have a state certified attorney. So Petrarca is our attorney who verifies contracts, and then DLA, there are architects who verify the actual construction. So they're not building anything. That's their job to monitor and manage the project.
So the answer is yes, we could. Just as we can have
If you wanted to, you could,
Mhm.
but in essence, it's an unneeded expense to have an owner's representative because that's what your architect does for you. And that goes with every project. So we have the boiler coming up this summer. DLA facilitates that. The kitchen renovation, DLA facilitates that. And that's the point of having a district architect. Anything that happens to your physical building, they have to be responsible for. And they're accountable to the state of Illinois as well as the district.
Okay, I just want to know whether legally we could ask, just as we could have two attorneys. We're not necessarily bound to, we don't have any contractual agreement. The difference with the attorney is we don't have any contractual agreement with an attorney. We can have one or two. I'm trying to understand if that could be the same case.
It's a little bit different because with your attorneys, and so I'll give you a perfect example. In my previous district, we had an attorney for school law as well as we had an attorney for business. So all school law attorneys don't provide business services. So our attorneys with Petrarca, they have an attorney Chris, who does school law, and then John Izzo, he's the one who does a lot of the business functions. So that firm in particular, they have, multifacets. With the architecture, with the architects, essentially you could have two architects, but that second architect still has to come through DLA because they are a state certified architect firm.
But the project administration expertise, which is not necessarily, which is just sort of monitoring the budget itself and the project oversight, I think doesn't require the same kind of technical responsibilities as perhaps somebody that is actually engaged in the construction of the site. Am I getting that correct?
No, usually your district is the one who's monitoring the budget. Your district is the one who's monitoring the budget. Your architect is the one who's monitoring construction. So, we're talking to say, hey, Doc, pay this bill because it does comply with rules, regulations, and they actually did the work. So your district monitors the budget piece, and the architects monitor the construction.
Okay, I've got my answer. I know that I need a little bit more guidance than
Sure.
what I'm saying. So I hear you. Thank you, Superintendent.
I'm glad you asked, Consuelo, because that's why we haven't work done on the gym now, because we didn't really know certain things. So thank you for asking and sharing.
Okay, any other questions about this? So I may just ask for some legal guidance here, Superintendent. Sherry?
Sure, no problem.
I think it's just a comment that even though DLA, they're the ones letting us know everything is in compliance, I don't want them to be the ones to just say this is what it is, and we're not dotting our I's and crossing our T's either. So going back to you, Ms. Hutchinson, I mean, this is a big project, and And if you tell somebody, okay, you got 2 million to spend, then they're like, oh, they have 2 million. We're gonna make sure that that 2 million, because we don't want them to come back like, oh, well, we need X, Y, and Z more money because they knew we had 2 million. So now we're going over budget.
Well, I think the fact that they're a licensed architectural firm through the state, I mean, there's a certain, I mean, they have licenses too, so I'm sure they're not going to put that at risk for just this one project. So I'm sure they're going to follow the law and do the right thing in terms of monitoring, and Dr. Alexander and the rest of the staff, we're there to monitor their spending, and they're not going to spend anything or go over budget I mean, they have to let us know about all of the expenditures. So
I wouldn't say they're not gonna go over budget, because I've been around and seen architectures come in and license and this, that, and the other, all that good stuff, and they went over budget. They went over budget.
One thing I'll say to you, Ms. Carr, as a chief school business officer in my past life, right? That's always, from the district perspective, that's the biggest piece of construction. And I've had conversation with DLA even now, and they were very upfront with us when we start talking about this project, that timing is of the essence. We do know that we're coming off of COVID with supply chain issues. And so we've had a lot of conversation. Here's the biggest piece. They don't get paid. They have, we have to certify their payment as well. And what DLA gets paid is very nominal compared to what the contractors get paid. So I definitely understand your concern. I have in the past used an outside owner's representative for construction. I've always thought that it was a unneeded expense. Usually that costs you a couple $100,000 based on the size of the project. But I think the biggest part of it is that DLA has been very upfront to say, we projected the cost based on what it is now. And the longer we wait, the longer it takes to get contracts in place or bids, that cost can go up. So from the internal perspective, we're monitoring the budget because we want to make sure we have enough money to pay for the project. And as a superintendent, I don't want to come before the board to say, hey, I need another $2-3 million because X, Y, and Z. The other part of the cost comes when you talk about change orders. So that's as you go through the process, instead of oak wood, we want cedar wood. Instead of terrazzo floors, we want travertine. So a lot of that falls back to the district, because the district is really what drives the cost up. I think that was a huge issue in from what I've been told, when they built the Calumet addition, was an additional renovation, whatever they did at Calumet. That was one of the biggest issues, was that the cost kept going up. Case in point, the culinary arts room, that was not an original part of the plan. That came in later, which added an extra couple $100,000. So the builders will do whatever you tell them to do. The architects are the ones who, like, you can't do that. It's out the budget. And Lynette will tell you, we've had meetings with the architects probably now once a week, and we're talking about what cost looks like. Do you want this kind of floor or that kind of floor? Do you want this kind of ceiling or that kind of ceiling? And so it's their responsibility to keep this project within the district's budget, because they're responsible at the end of the day, because the contractors have done the work. So
And what's the district's budget, Dr. Alexander? Since
at this point, our budget is 10 million. And that comes from a few different sources, but our budget for the full project is 10 million. And Lynette and Mr. Corley will tell you, I'm building this house like it's the government's money, not mine. So we've been cutting corners on different things just because of the cost. And that's imperative if we want to stay within that $10 million budget.
Other questions?
$10 million budget and something that's really going to benefit our students in this
Absolutely,
district.
absolutely.
That's the top priority, is the students. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Alexander.
No problem. Thank you, Ms. Carr.
I
So,
don't have any, my comments was just, I'm glad that you all stand on top of it, so it won't be overspent. And that you won't have to come back to the board like, well, so that's what I was saying, it's just far as, even though DLA is doing it, that you all still monitoring and having those conversations as you saying that you are having.
And I appreciate you for saying that, Ms. Story. I mean, we walked into this knowing that at this point, companies are looking to get rich because they know that districts have a ton of money to spend. And we have to spend it fast. So a lot of people are, trying to hike prices up. But as we go through the bid process, that's my top priority. We have to stay within budget. And I'm looking at it like 10 million is our drop dead. We don't have any more, any less. But we also can't be put in a situation where we're 2 weeks away from opening the doors and they say, well, we need to add $1 million to the budget. So between myself, Ms. Hutchison, and Mr. Corley, I mean, I've never had a facilities director like Mr. Corley. So I am confident that we will get this project done. And then, if worse comes to worse, we have to come back to the board because the prices have gone up. You all watch the news and TV, everything has increased. The cost of wood, the cost of steel. If that's the case, then we'll come back to the board to have a conversation. Consuelo said no.
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, first he was so adamant.
That's why I'm almost wanting to take this out of the district's heads as well, and hold somebody else, hold somebody else.
Well,
I hear you, Dr. Alexander, and I just, I'm consistent.
No, but in response to what you just said, somebody else, I look at it like this: whoever we bring as the owner's rep, they get a paycheck. They get a paycheck for doing the service. At the district level, we get a paycheck because we continue to keep the district solvent. So my view and Lynette's view is a little bit different than a contractor. And here's the reality. I'm thinking about it from the perspective of 5 years down the line. If we have to increase by $1 million or $2 million, how's that going to impact staffing 3 years later? How's that going to impact our abilities to purchase textbooks or whatever? So I think this district has a great future ahead, having two business people at the helm. Lynette and I are very similar in that we're looking at every single cost and questioning, why is it this much? Can we get it cheaper? Or what if we change? I'll give you a perfect example, the boardroom. We've already saved $100,000 on the boardroom by changing help me, Lynette, the structure of the room. So instead of it being like a permanent boardroom type thing, it's gonna have movable desks that will convert into an auditorium type stage. That saved $100,000. So we're having these critical conversations. So just so that we can make sure that we are within parameters.
Okay. All right. Any other, I see a hand raised, and can we go, so Ms. Harrison is the person on the iPad. Can we go to public comment, and then Ms. Harrison, we can jump in and have you ask your question too. Ms. Harrison, you want to jump in? Okay. All right. So are there any other public comments? If not, may I get a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to say job well done by you, Ms. Hutchinson, today. I like
Thank
your
you.
comments. I like that you're on top of things, and look forward to seeing my email. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All righty.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hutchinson. Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Thank you, board members. And this meeting is adjourned at 6:20 p.m.
Thank
Y'all
Okay.
have
you.
a beautiful rest of the week.
Just so you all know, I'm gonna knock John out tomorrow because I thought the meeting started at 6 o'clock.
No, you're not. I thought it was at
I
6
did
o'clock
too.
too.
Oh,
And
I'm gonna knock
Consuela
John.
texted to let me know.
Councilwoman said it
Everybody was
started
saying
at
6 o'clock.
I changed it. I don't know why it was.
You weren't the
I-
five.
only
Is it
one,
on
Dr.
the,
Alexander.
let me check this email. I thought it was at
I
6
take
too.
full responsibility for messing up. the
Okay.
meeting.
Consuelo just didn't want me in the meeting, that's all.
Oh, no, it say 5 o'clock.
And
I'm
Consuela,
looking
I
at
have
the
a question
email.
for you, Consuela, before we go.
Yes,
Since
ma'am.
I
It
will be on
says
the
5 o'clock. Okay.
since I'll be on the other side of the fence, as a community member, how are community members informed about your finance meeting? How are they informed? How do, like, the,
Posting,
I-
yeah, posting on we post the announcement on the door of the school.
so they have to come up to the school to find out?
I
Well,
think
On the
so.
website as well.
On the website as well.
Oh, and okay, website, that's what I'm used to. Okay, thank you,
So-
Consuelo
Yeah.
and Dr.
So when you go
Alexander.
to the website, Ms. Carr, right on the front page, the calendar pops up and it'll say that. But for the most part, we try to stick to the standardized date. So you always know that finance is gonna be on the second Wednesday, Ms. Wendler?
It's
Second
been
Monday,
so random lately.
She
yeah.
don't know, Dr.
You don't know
Alexander.
now, the has changed.
I look on the website. Thank you, Dr. Alexander.
No problem, thank you, Ms. Carr.
All right,
Have
y'all.
a good day.
Yeah, have a great evening, everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you. Have a
Bye.
beautiful day.
Okay.